It's always a really good day when we get to introduce a new guitar to the world, and it's an even better day when that particular guitar is a Taylor. So as you can imagine, we're having a pretty good day today. In this video, we're going to be talking about the brand new Taylor AD27e Flametop. Hello, I am Vinny from Guitar, and today we are going to be talking about the AD27e Flametop. But before we go too much more into detail about the guitar, it's probably just worth mentioning that in this video, of course, I'm going to be talking about the guitar. Now, we are aware that for some people, they just want to hear what a guitar sounds like and then maybe hear a little bit more about it afterwards. So if you're one of those people and you just want to hear guitar playing, then there is a playlist in the description below. You can click through that, you can hear all of the sound bites that we've recorded, just completely uninterrupted, and you can get an idea and feel for what the guitar sounds like. Those sound bites are also going to be in this video as well, so if you're happy to hear me talk about the guitar too, then feel free to stick around. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about this brand new guitar. It is the Taylor American Dream 27E or AD27e Flametop. Now, Taylor, of course, are one of our most favorite brands. If you have ever watched any other videos on this channel where we talk about Taylors, you probably already know that. Taylor are an amazing acoustic guitar manufacturer, probably one of the best in the world, one of the biggest operations in the world. They have got so many guitars to choose from, and we just love what they do and we love what they are all about. One of the best things about Taylor guitars is that they always have a guitar for every single person. One of their big taglines is "Find your fit." Taylor have got a vast selection of body shapes, woods, finishes, looks, feels, everything. There are so many different guitars to choose from, so as I say, there's always something for every player. Of course, sometimes when you are spoilt for choice, it can get a little bit confusing, so Taylor also keep their line pretty simple. Almost all of Taylor's guitar models are named after 3 numbers and maybe some very easy to understand letters, but let's talk a little bit more about all of those details. So the American Dream series, what's it all about? The American Dream series first launched a couple of years ago. Basically, Taylor wanted to bring a warmer, richer sound to their product line. Taylors, generally speaking, have got kind of like a more modern feel as far as acoustics go, and they wanted to do something that was more akin to some of their more vintage classic counterparts. Of course, with American being in the name, they are also American built, but Taylor have always aimed to keep the American Dream series in a somewhat accessible range for an American built guitar. Of course, it's not going to be quite as budget friendly as some of the other guitars in Taylor's range, which are not built in America, but as far as American guitars go, this one is pretty accessible on a slightly lower budget. All of the American Dream guitars are all solid, which is pretty important to note. And it's also probably worth mentioning that this is not the first AD27e to exist. So when the American Dream range pretty much first launched, there was already an AD27e, and that's like a mahogany top, Sapele back and sides kind of thing. The AD27e Flametop is completely different, and now let's talk about that 2 in the middle, the 27e. So 2, as I already mentioned, stands for hardwood. On the older AD27es, which do still exist, they used mahogany. On this particular model, as you can probably guess from the fact that it has a flamey top, This guitar is made of all maple, and for some people that maybe know a little bit about tone woods, some alarm bells might be ringing there, because generally speaking, maple is a very bright, almost harsh wood. And when guitar manufacturers use maple on their acoustic guitars, a lot of the time they might use it on like their back and sides on a really, really big body shape that has that bass response, and then they would level it out with a different top. That's because, as I say, maple being a very bright wood, if everything was maple, generally you would expect the guitar to just not have a lot of range tonally, be a very sort of tinny, bright guitar. So when we first heard about these, we were a little bit taken back, thinking, wow, okay, all maple acoustic guitar from Taylor, let's see how this goes. But we have all been so pleasantly surprised by this guitar. It really did just subvert all of our expectations. These guitars have got so much tone and depth across the frequency spectrum, all the way from the low end to the high end. It is not just a bright, boxy sound, which really, really impressed us. As I've already said, maple, you just don't expect that. And one of the reasons for that, which I think is quite interesting and worth noting, is that these guitars, when they ship, come with nickel strings on them, which is very unusual for an acoustic guitar. Normally, you find nickel strings on an electric guitar, and you have some kind of bronze alloy thing on an acoustic. Yeah, nickel strings on these. Apparently, that helps add to the tone and character of the guitar in a way that responds with the maple, makes it sound really nice and deep. And let's talk a little bit more about the sound of the guitar, because I think that's really important. This guitar has a really rich bottom end and a really distinct high end. And what you generally find is this is a really good acoustic guitar if you're playing like a lot of rhythm on your acoustics. So one of the things that we really found is that if you were to play this guitar and had someone else playing some more sort of like lead acoustic, if that's a thing, on top of it, this guitar sits really nicely underneath the other guitar in the mix. And that's because it's not battling in the same frequency areas, and it gives everything else a lot of room to breathe. So if you're like a singer-songwriter and you know you're going to be singing over the guitar all the time, or you play with other guitarists and you don't want to overshadow their performances, this guitar is going to be really, really good for that. I've spoken about the body wood, but that isn't the only thing that contributes to the sound of the guitar. Let's move on to that last number in the model number, the 7. So the 7 stands for Grand Pacific, and this again is a body shape that Taylor have only really had in their line for the last few years. It's one of the most recent ones that they've launched. Grand Pacific is basically a sloped shoulder dreadnought. To keep it brief, basically a dreadnought is pretty much one of the most classic acoustic guitar body shapes for a very good reason. It has lots of projection, but it also has a very good balanced sound. However, a lot of people find with what we call square shoulder dreadnoughts, I might have just made that up, but I'm pretty sure that's the correct terminology. A lot of people find those can be quite big and uncomfortable, whereas a sloped shoulder dreadnought, I don't know, it feels slightly different in your hand. Somehow they just feel a little bit smaller than your regular dreadnought, and they just feel really, really comfortable, and such a familiar shape and such an iconic shape made famous by so many players, and this guitar does not disappoint on that front. Of course, the E stands for the fact that it has electronics, so you can plug this guitar in, you can perform live with it. It has the famous Taylor ES2 expression system built into it, so you're going to get a really great plugged-in acoustic sound which represents your body woods very well. And finally, let's talk about the Flametop. This is obviously one of the biggest benefits of having an all maple guitar. It means that you can also have a very cool figured flame maple top, and it just looks amazing. It's not very often you get to see an acoustic guitar with a genuine flame maple top. Normally that sort of thing is reserved for like your Les Pauls. This just looks incredible, and it's such a striking guitar. On top of all of the great sound that you're going to get out of this guitar, you're also going to turn some heads. We won't go too in detail about all of the specs. If you want to see those, then I would recommend checking our product page for these guitars. But one thing that is worth mentioning is that these are built with Taylor's V-Class bracing systems, so you're going to get all of the sustain and richness that you would expect from Taylor's nowadays. And of course, it also comes with Taylor's Aerocase gig bag, which is an amazing gig bag. I've said this a few times on our channel, but I genuinely feel like I would rather have one of these cases than a hard case for my acoustic guitar. It just feels so good. It's nice and padded, going to protect your guitar so well, and it's also not going to be a pain to carry. So great stuff, comes with that gig bag. Couldn't recommend it enough. If you are interested by the Taylor AD27e Flametop, then I highly recommend coming into a Guitar and trying one out. They are fantastic guitars for so many different players. I really think it's just gonna put a whole new perspective on guitar playing for a lot of people. When you take into account that these guitars are made with a wood that generally people would just write off and just say, no, that's no good, that's not gonna work. And the fact that Taylor have just got such a good sound out of it, it's worth trying out just for that fact alone. But of course, these are amazingly made guitars. They are such good quality and they just feel and sound so good. So yeah, cannot understate how much you should just come and see what these are all about. If you have any more questions about this guitar you'd like answered, please do feel free to get in contact with us, whether that be in the comments below, it could be on one of the chat boxes, on our website. We have got lots and lots of very experienced staff who all love guitars, ready to talk to you about anything you need. So as I say, please feel free to get in contact with us. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe, hit that bell so you get some notifications from us whenever we release brand new content about brand new guitars. It's all very exciting. This year is looking to be a very good one for guitars. So please do make sure to tune in. Until next time, we will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.